Picture a university campus, an outdoor event. The air is, charged like it always is at these things.
Right, a familiar scene.
And Charlie Kirk is up there, doing what he does best. He's engaging with a student, debating political rhetoric.
And then, in an instant, everything just stops.
A single shot. The sound echoes across the campus, and the leader of a movement is gone.
His legacy wasn't dead. Not at all.
It was redefined almost overnight.
Welcome to Starscope Report.
Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today, we're doing a deep dive into an event that sent a shockwave through the political world.
We're talking about the fatal assassination of Charlie Kirk in Utah.
And maybe even more importantly, the immediate, powerful rise of his widow, Erika Kirk.
She stepped forward to take control of the huge Turning Point USA machine, basically instantly.
Our mission today is to unpack it all for you. The event, the suspect's really bizarre motive, and the political firestorm that followed. So let's start with the event itself, a single shot that became a political earthquake.
It happened on September 10th, 2025, at Utah Valley University. Kirk was outside, speaking under a tent.
And the details that came out later, they really showed this was no random act of violence.
Oh, not at all. This was, for all intents and purposes, a professional hit. The shot was fired from a rooftop.
How far away?
About 142 yards,
Yeah.
so that's roughly 130 meters. The weapon was a .3006 bolt-action rifle.
A sniper's rifle.
Precisely. The shooter had set up what you'd call a sniper's nest on the roof of a nearby building.
And the most chilling part for me is what he was talking about right before he was shot.
The context is almost unbelievable. He was in a debate with a student about transgender mass shooters.
And his final words captured on video were counting or not counting gang violence.
And then the shot, it's just stark.
And look, this didn't happen in a vacuum, right? Political violence in the U.S. had been, it'd been escalating.
It absolutely had. We'd already seen the shootings of legislators in Minnesota, attacks on Israeli embassy staff.
The arson at the Pennsylvania governor's residence?
Right. And of course, multiple assassination attempts on President Trump. Kirk's death was this horrifying confirmation that the tension had turned lethal.
So what about the shooter? He didn't just disappear.
No, surveillance cameras caught him running off the roof, and he escaped into some nearby woods. He ditched the rifle there.
But the manhunt didn't last long.
No, it ended just over a day later. And it was his own family.
His parents.
His parents. They saw his picture on the news, recognized him, and convinced him to surrender.
And who was he?
22-year-old Tyler James Robinson.
When you look into his background, the story gets even more complex.
It really does. He came from a very conservative family. I think his mother said his grandmother didn't even know a single Democrat. But he had shifted dramatically. His mother told investigators he started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented.
And he gave a motive.
He did, a very clear one. In a text message to his roommate, when asked why he did it, he wrote,
What?
"I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out."
So a clear ideological motive. Hate.
Exactly.
Right.
But this is where the story gets really, really weird.
We know the shooter's stated motive was hate, but the evidence left behind reads like a deep dive into the darkest, most bizarre corners of internet culture.
It's a complete contradiction.
Wait until you hear what was written on the bullets themselves.
Yes. Okay, let's unpack this evidence because it's a puzzle.
It really is. The inscriptions on the bullet casings are this bizarre mashup of, far-left politics, gaming culture,
Yeah.
and just internet memes.
It makes it so hard to get a clear picture of his state of mind.
Almost impossible from the evidence alone.
So let's start with the casing from the bullet that was actually fired,
Right.
the one that killed Kirk. What did it say? It said, "Notices bulges ow-oh."
Which is what?
It's a reference to online furry roleplay. It's a meme, basically. A kind of absurd, provocative greeting in that subculture.
Okay. So completely surreal. What about the other rounds they found in the rifle?
They were just as contradictory. One said, "If you read this, you are gay LMAO."
Just a classic juvenile internet troll comment.
Exactly. Another one had a code on it. Turns out it's the code you use to summon a huge bomb in the video game Helldivers 2.
So we have furry memes, trolling, and video game references.
And then something completely different. Another round had lyrics from Bella Ciao.
The Italian anti-fascist song.
That's the one. So you see this collision, right? Far left politics clashing with just chaotic, weird internet culture.
And that chaos, it led to immediate misinformation, didn't it?
Oh, instantly. Because of the shooter's reported pro-trans rights views, early reports just ran with it. They claimed these inscriptions were related to transgender ideology.
Which wasn't true.
Not at all. The FBI even clarified it was memes, pop culture, and anti-fascist references. But the damage was done.
The Human Rights Campaign had to put out a statement.
Yeah, they demanded a public retraction. They said the false reporting had unleashed a wave of terror and threats against the trans community. It shows how fast a complex story can get twisted.
And the official political response was just as fast.
And just as aggressive. Before a suspect was even confirmed, President Trump and other Republicans were blaming the radical left.
Then came what some people started calling a conservative version of cancel culture.
It was a huge crackdown. Mass firings, disciplinary actions, basically against anyone seen celebrating or even making critical comments online about Kirk's death.
It wasn't just individuals, though. The administration went further.
They did. They threatened to investigate liberal groups and their donors. They specifically named the Open Society Foundations.
For anyone who doesn't know, that's the network linked to George Soros.
Right. So targeting them sends a massive signal. It's not just about speech. It's about the financial infrastructure of your political opponents.
They also talked about labeling Antifa a terrorist group.
Which is a huge escalation. And then, maybe the most concerning move.
The DOJ study.
Exactly. The Department of Justice reportedly removed a 2024 study from its website. A study which showed that far-right violence was more prevalent than left-wing violence in the U.S.
And this led to some pushback, even from conservatives.
It did. You had Senator Ted Cruz, a staunch conservative, saying he was worried about the government policing speech.
Which brings up the core question here. Is this about defending free speech, or is it, as Professor Stephen Levitsky called it, page 1 of the authoritarian playbook?
That was the debate that was raging. The government was leveraging a tragedy to tighten its grip on dissent.
If you're loving these political twists and turns, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've got the defining moment of this story. The elevation of Erika Kirk. Coming up next.
The whole story really pivots at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. It was massive, right? Held in a stadium in Arizona.
Tens of thousands of people. And the headline coming out of it wasn't about grief. It was about a vow.
The widow's vow, making the movement 10 times better.
Erika Kirk, who is 36, she stepped right into that power vacuum. And she wasn't a total unknown.
No, she had her own profile. Businesswoman, podcast host. She was a former Miss Arizona.
And, very importantly, a doctoral student in Bible studies. She had the credentials and, the intellectual framework to take on that leadership role.
So at the memorial, she gives this speech, and it becomes the new mission statement.
It did. She stood up there and said, quote, "His mission is my mission." She promised to make Turning Point USA 10 times better through his memory.
She guaranteed that campus events would continue, chapters would expand. There was no sense of retreat. Not at all.
Yeah.
And she did something really strategic. She had always talked about her role as creating a sacred landing space for him, emphasizing biblical womanhood.
Right, prioritizing motherhood and family over her career.
Well, now she used that very framework to justify her public political takeover. It gave the transition this powerful moral legitimacy for their base.
And she didn't just mourn the tragedy, she immediately reframed it.
A brilliant narrative move. She introduced this theme of Christian forgiveness. She said she forgave the killer.
She said that Charlie wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life.
Yes. It completely removed any hint of bitterness or revenge. It positioned the movement within a framework of martyrdom and faith.
And then she appealed directly to the young people in the audience.
She told them to choose prayer, choose courage, choose beauty, choose a life of faith. Most importantly, choose Christ. It was a call to action, not a eulogy.
And then came the moment that went viral.
Yeah.
On stage, standing right next to President Trump.
The hand gesture.
Yeah, let's break that down for everyone. She's looking at a big photo of Charlie.
And she makes this very specific gesture. She extends her index finger, thumb, and pinky, and folds down the other 2 fingers.
And this wasn't just some random sign?
No, not in this context.
Oh.
Given her speech, her background in Bible studies, that gesture is deeply rooted in Christian iconography.
How so?
The 3 extended fingers often symbolize the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and the 2 folded fingers can symbolize the 2 natures of Christ, God, and man.
So she was, in a way, elevating the moment.
She was elevating it beyond politics. It became a kind of spiritual transfer of leadership, a symbolic anointing. It was a perfectly executed piece of public theater.
Before we wrap up, if this deep dive is hitting those aha moments for you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next report. So, to recap, we've seen the tragic death of a major political figure killed by a young man with this really confusing mix of ideological hate and chaotic internet culture as a motive.
And we saw the political world react instantly, a polarizing crackdown from the government that targeted political speech and dissent.
But the biggest takeaway really is the seamless succession. How Erika Kirk didn't just take over, she redefined the entire movement.
She used the tragedy as fuel. She turned his martyrdom into the central pillar of a new, expanded mission, all under this banner of renewed spiritual faith.
Which leaves us with a really tough and poignant question for you to think about.
Charlie Kirk often said, and I'm quoting here, that it was worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment.
So how does that statement, when you place it next to the fact that he himself was killed by a sniper's bullet?
And the fact that his widow is now vowing to use that very violence to grow his movement exponentially.
How does that combination define the future limits of political speech and the escalating role of violence in America?
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.